It doesn't bother me at all. Let's go to Johnny. We got Johnny Mack, though. I want to get to Johnny Mack and see what he thinks about this game. Joining us now here from Lincoln Financial Field, John McMullen joins us. Johnny Mack, welcome to the show, man. Eagles moving on, and will host the Commanders in the NFC title game next week. They win 28-22 in an iconic snow game. Johnny Mack, your first takeaways from that crazy game.
Yeah, it's still snowing. I'm looking out at the field, still snowing pretty hard. So, that's pretty cool for people to see. Obviously, boy, I thought 16-15 entering the fourth quarter. I thought that was the key part of the game. The Rams had the football at their own 43, 15 minutes to go. Felt like it might be slipping away. And then first play of the fourth quarter, Jaylen Carter punches it out from Kyron Williams. Isaiah Rodgers recovers the fumble. Nice spin move, returns it 40 yards down to the 10. Eagles couldn't punch it in, but that started, Jake Elliott had a weird day, made some big field goals, but he missed 2 extra points, so he continues to struggle. But obviously, the conditions are what they were. The first 10 plays the Rams ran in the fourth quarter, they had 9 total yards, 2 fumbles, and that to me was the difference in the game. Eagles made it a little bit too hard with the, questionable play calls late with, Jalen Hurts, especially on second down. Boy, I know I got ripped for calling Sean McVay overrated, but man, I want to spike the football. What is that dude doing with 4:46 left, punting the football against this team? And I said, game's over, because the Eagles are going to run out the clock. Well, they didn't need to run out the clock because Saquon went 78 yards in one play.
But John, they gave them
the last chance, though.
They gave them
they came back. They came back. But you don't do that. You don't do that. You watch in Washington last night. Why did Washington beat Detroit? Well, tons of things, turnovers, but a big part of it was Dan Quinn's mentality. He knew he's an underdog on the road. You got to take some chances, go for it on fourth down. You got to be bold to win on the road in the playoffs in a big situation against let's be honest, a more talented team. Dan Quinn was with Washington. Sean McVay wasn't with the Los Angeles Rams. I don't think he helped them. Now, they had the football at the 13-yard line. Jaylen Carter, though, wrecked this game, wrecked the last few plays. That guy as well deserves a lot of credit. So the Eagles made it harder than they needed to. But, man, Saquon Barkley against the Los Angeles Rams, 460 yards. 460 yards. It's like the yards from scrimmage, I think it's 527. Yeah. My God. That's one of the worst run defenses I've ever seen. Amazing they were even in the game. Probably had something to do with the weather. But yeah, the Eagles, it should have been easier because they should have just handed the football off the entire game. You try to get them
John, that to me was my only bitch about it was if you're gaining 7 yards a carry and you're starting to throw the ball in the third and fourth, and you're like, wait a minute, you're completely dominating them. You got a guy that's going to go for over 200 yards in the ball game. What you did was by creating a closer game was getting some of those 3 and outs and Hurts taking those 7 sacks, which gave them the opportunity. Again, I hear what you're saying about the Rams, but the Rams did have the ball in their hand at the end of the ball game to win it. I mean, so they did have an opportunity, and I thought, again, they should have just stuck more with the run, John. And I'm not saying Jaylen threw the ball a lot. Didn't you feel that way too, John, that they just kept the Rams kind of in it when they stopped the clock a few times and a couple of them sacks? Just situationally, some of the play calling that they had, especially in the fourth.
Well, a lot of it was, if Jake Elliott makes the 2 extra points, the game's over, right? Yeah. You're up, essentially the game's over. So, it was what it was from the weather aspect, but he missed a couple extra points. And yeah, I would have ran the football on second down. when they had it and Jalen Hurts took the sack. I would have ran the football when they were backed up when he took the safety. So not the best game from Jalen Hurts. I know people are going to shit over that, but wasn't the best game from Jalen Hurts. But they did enough to win the football game. Shouldn't have been as close as it was. They did. You think about Saquon almost had that touchdown run, and they called it a touchdown on the field, but he was short by about 6 or 8 inches. They're lining up for a tush push. They're probably going to score that touchdown. Lane Johnson blinches, so that puts them back. They had a number of shoot themselves in the foot moments that kept the Rams in the game. But yeah, I mean, when you're on the road, like I said, and you're the underdog, you got to be bold. Let's be honest. You got to be bold.
Yeah, I thought I'm with you, John. He left some stuff on the field. Even the one in the first half where it's 4th down and he settled for the field goal. I thought he should have. I thought they should have. Yeah, it was terrible. John, talk to me about Jalen Hurts, man. You just said not his greatest performance. They win the game. John, this to me, I told so at the start of the show. Throw the stats out. Snow's coming down. This is one of those games. But talk to me. What'd you see from Jalen Hurts tonight?
Not a lot, and part of it is, but again, you saw Matthew Stafford able to make some plays. It's made some mistakes as well, but he proved he can cut the football. Now, there was a drop by A.J. Brown. Probably should have caught that ball, so that would have made Jalen look a little bit better. They are what they are at this point. I think they're going to throw it. I said they're going to throw it 20 times. What they throw it 20 times. 20 times. They're going to run the football. Jalen was average at the end of the first quarter. Jalen was averaging 22 yards a run, and Saquon was averaging 17 yards a run. And you're saying, all right, what are we doing here? I mean, this team is just not equipped to stop the Eagles' running game. Then it became a little bit harder. Look, it's going to come down from that level. And it became a little bit harder as the snow came. But I think the goal was when the snow really started coming down, have the lead. And they had the lead, even though it was precarious, 16-15. They had the lead when the snow really started pounding. And then all of a sudden, Kyron Williams fumble. Matthew Stafford fumble in the pocket. I don't think that's a coincidence when that snow really started coming down.
Hey, John, I thought, though, when the Rams got the Eagles' O-line in 3rd and long, I thought they got home. I mean, I thought they pressured the quarterback.
Yeah, but they did.
To your point, here was the flaw in the game plan for McVay in this game. Dude, you had to win 1st and 2nd down. You had to have that defense win 1st and 2nd down if you were going to win that game. So to me, again here, man, I mean, there's no question, John. I mean, once that defense was able to get them in 3rd, they won a couple 1st and 2nd downs. Chris Shula's defense won a couple of them, and when they needed to, they got home 7 times.
Yeah, how much is that of Jalen holding on to the football versus they have a very good pass rush, but it's sort of half and half.
And you know what he did too a couple times, John? He ran into some sacks because he was moving around in the pocket too much.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like the Eagles pass rush to me was more, they're on top of Matthew Stafford versus the Rams pass rush was more of, all right, Jalen's trying to find something instead of just getting the football out. Not on every play, but like the Eagles are going for Hail Mary at the end of the half. Jared Verse gets a sack. By the way, I love that guy. Played the pro wrestling heel. Really embraced it. Had a great game. I love Jared Verse. But that was a garbage time sack. That's not important. He's just trying to create enough time to get people down for a Hail Mary. So, you got to look at each one individually. But I thought, Jalen Carter was clearly the dominant pass rusher in this game. And that's not easy. Nick was just talking about it. Nick Sirianni asked him about Jalen Carter. It's not easy with that footing. But, one thing that drives me crazy with all, and I'm not going to, McVay, Shanahan, O'Connell, LaFleur, all those guys, is this just slavish devotion to play action when nobody in the stadium knows you're going to run the football. So it's great, in the first quarter, the first half of the game, when you have the run and the pass on the table, and it works great. But when everybody knows you're throwing the football and you use these play action mechanics, and Matthew Stafford got the ball, so that was the key part of the game to me, where it was 4:46 left. On 1st and 10, like everybody knows they're throwing the football, they do this play action. By the time Matthew Stafford turns around, he's dead because the Eagles are pinning their ears back. He's sacked, and it's 2nd and 17, and the drive's over. Because of this slavish devotion to the mechanics of play action, even though it's not a play action situation. Drives me freaking nuts. Cost the Rams the game. I know Eagles fans won't care about that, but it's like banging your head against the wall.
How about this, John? I thought Jaylen struggled with internal pressure with them bringing it up the middle and recognizing pass protection at least 3 times in the game that led to some of those sacks right up the middle. And he's supposedly setting the protection, right?
Yeah. He's got it's his fault. I mean, look, one thing, since I'm on a drive me crazy tangent, a lot of fans don't realize the quarterback has a hand at pass protection. If in blitz situations, if you're sending an unaccounted for rusher, in other words, they're sending one more than you have blocking, that's on the quarterback. That's his guy. It is accounted for. You have to realize, unaccounted for, ball's got to come out. We've been talking about this all year.
Yep.
Doesn't matter because the Eagles are 16-3. They're going to the NFC Championship game for the 3rd time in 8 years. They're winning football games. But that doesn't mean everything's perfect. And the ball does not come out on time too much for the Philadelphia Eagles in the passing game. That is the least controversial thing I've ever said. Behind Jaden Daniels is having a better season than Jalen Hurts, which people I mean, that's ridiculous. That's even ridiculous to talk about.
Yeah, it is. He's just been in sensation. John, if I'm not mistaken, that Commanders team won 4 ball games last year. And John, would this be a fair comment to say about this NFC title game? Not to get ahead of it, but I don't know about you. You tell me if I'm completely wrong, because you said this a couple weeks ago about AJ. I'm not worried about Hurts. I'm more concerned about AJ. Is it me, John, or does he just look banged up right now and not as explosive?
Oh, yeah, he's not himself. He didn't drop a ball all season. He didn't drop a ball all season. He dropped 2 tonight. The first one was kind of, it was kind of an ambulance ball. He kind of short-armed it, probably because he didn't want to go to the hospital. But so I'm not going to kill him for that one. But the second one, that's a football that A.J. Brown usually catches. And it would have been set him up at the 1 or 2 yard line. Might have gotten in, who knows? But yeah, he's clearly not himself from a health perspective. He's fighting through it, and they haven't needed it. They don't throw the ball that much. I expect that to continue next week. And like we said, we keep saying this, Zander and I, and you, Dan, when we're doing these post-game shows and pre-game shows, they only got 2 hurdles left.
Yeah.
They only got 2 hurdles. Maybe they're never going to need to throw the football. It's
8 quarters possible. Left, John. John, there's 8 quarters left to the Lombardi.
Yeah. I mean, look, Washington had a very explosive game against Detroit, but Detroit has all those issues on defense, injuries. I don't see that turning into a 40-35 game. It might, but I doubt it. And then if you talk about the way Kansas City plays, if they go, you're not going to be in a shootout. They play a totally different style these days. Baltimore, Buffalo, whoever wins this game is going on right now, they might put up some points, but the Eagles stopped Baltimore the first time. So there's only 8 quarters, as you mentioned, and I think they're over those 8 quarters because I do think they're going to beat Washington. I'm not even going to beat around the bush. I think this is, man, things have broken great. It's like Penn State in the college football playoffs, man. Everything's broken for the Eagles. And now, love Jaden Daniels, love what Dan Quinn has done, love what Adam Peters has done with that team, but they're not equipped to beat the Philadelphia Eagles.
Let me ask you this, John. You said something a couple weeks ago, and I'm just wondering the mentality. I'm going to ask Angelo this tomorrow because he's going to be on with us. Angelo Cataldi will be on with us tomorrow. I'm going to ask him the same question, but you're in the building with these guys. When you see how this team is constructed and you see the money and the issues, that people always say, Sills always goes to the money. Well, that's NFL. If you don't put the money and you don't put the draft equity and you don't put it all together, you have no idea what you're talking about when it comes to building a football team with the cap being the way it is. Howie did not build this team to this thing to look like this. Do you not agree, John? A year ago, they were trying to put a round peg in a square hole by continuing to do the bullshit they did, and that resulted in the meltdown. This year, they just went like this, John. Fuck it. We're going to ride this thing no matter how we constructed it. And like you said, we may not need to throw the ball 38 times. I don't care. But do you think this way of winning is something that they're going to go forward with next year? And they're going to continue to do this? Because this is not how we built this team. It's almost like, in a way, Barkley's performance was not expected. The cheapest guy in the huddle is Barkley. The rest of those guys were all given extensions. And I mean, do you think they continue this way next year?
No. The minute they win the Super Bowl, lose the Super Bowl, lose the NFC Championship game, the minute this season ends, they will go back to the drawing board and try to evolve the offense to where they want it to be. However, when they get to the regular season, and that's where I think Nick doesn't, get enough credit, doesn't give a shit. He's going to do what he needs to do to win a game. And if they assess it's not working again, they'll scale it back. But by no means do they want to play this way. By no means was it the plan to play this way. They just decided at week 5, the bye week, all right, we got to scale this thing back. And they never stopped winning from that point. So, they lost one game to the Washington Commanders. And they lost that because the quarterback got hurt 6 minutes into the game. And, Devontae Smith dropped a football. Otherwise, they would have won that. So, yeah, I mean, right now it's hard to argue with the way they're playing.
I will push back on both of you and say, find me a Super Bowl run that went exactly according to plan. I don't think they happened like that. John, I want to ask you a question. How does this stack up, John? You've covered a lot of games in your life. You've covered a lot of playoff games. You've covered the Philadelphia Eagles for a long time now. How does this playoff game stack up for you on the hierarchy of games you've covered live and in person? From my perspective, John, and I'm just watching on TV. I didn't have a chance to be there. It was an iconic game. How does it stack up for you?
Well, I think everybody likes a snow game. So from that standpoint, I do. From the, if you think about the 2 NFC Championship games before over this 8-year span, completely dominating Minnesota, completely Hassan Reddick wrecking the game against San Francisco. Those were more impressive, obviously. But just from the, the Norman Rockwell-esque, background, it's going to excite a lot of people. For me personally, I was, pulling out the hair I don't have, watching Sean McVay coach, and the Eagles I was pulling out my hair that I don't have about the Eagles not being able to finish these drives because, they should have won this game easily, but they didn't finish drives. So I didn't think, and I didn't think it was a well played game, is what I'm trying to say. But a lot of that is baked into the elements. It's just terrible situation on the field.
John, for me, there was a game back, and I think it is either 93 or 92, that Buffalo Bills Houston Oilers game where they came roaring back when Reich went in there and took over for Jim Kelly. That was one of those games and playoff game that you remember. It was January 3rd. It was on my birthday. That's why I remember watching it with my wife. We were watching that epic comeback. But a lot of these games, man, I mean, and like you said, just like in the college championship playoff series, when you had Notre Dame having the home game there at South Bend, it kind of gives it that look, what I mean? It was really the look here. And by the way, Zander, just so you know, TV snow games always get higher ratings than regular games.
They're iconic.
The snow games is what the networks want.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. They are. You're still talking about the snow game from what was it, 2014, week 7 or something?
That was like a week 13 game or something. It didn't even matter, that game, and people are still talking about it.
All right, John, last question for me.
By the way, Sean McCoy had over 200 yards in that game rushing. Saquon got to 205 today.
Hey, John, did you hear anything about Q? Did you see him?
Yeah, I saw him after. I think he's going to be fine. I don't think it's going to be terribly serious. I was taking a shower. He seemed to be in, a lot of discomfort. So I think there's going to be positive news. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to play next week because he's bagged up, but I don't think it's going to be a long-term thing. And by the way, Isaiah Rodgers, he played a really good game. I talked about the fumble recovery, did a good job on kick returns as well before he had to play corner. He gave up some stuff, but he also made some plays, and he was there. He might be the best backup cornerback in football because he's had to play a lot when, Slay's been banged up, and now Mitchell's been banged up. He got banged up, and Kaylee Ringo had to step in for a little while. I thought, Stafford McVay would automatically say, all right, we're going to go a kick. They really didn't. So he did a good job. So, that's been one of the stories. Oren Burks, again, played really well for Nakobe Dean. Nolan Smith had another good game. Nick was more excited about the defense than the offense.
Bond was great.
Outside, obviously, Saquon. And the offensive line in the running game. I mean, I didn't relook at the 78-yard touchdown because I was too busy, doing stuff for the end of the game. But the first one, just a huge block from Mekhi Becton. I'm sure there's going to be a huge block on the second one.
They just sealed it on the left side of the line, John, and he was gone.
He picked him up and threw him on his head. That's how much of a dominant block it was. I mean, he just blew him off the ball. I mean, when people are saying that they're not touching Barkley for 2.5 yards into the line of scrimmage, you see it, man. These guys blow dudes off the ball.
Yeah. And he's but most backs might get 20, 30 yards on a block like that, but Saquon gets that opening and he's gone. So that's, 78 yards, 60. Think about that. 2 games against the LA Rams. He's got 2 touchdowns over 70 yards in the first game. He's got a 78-yarder today, a 62-yarder today. Pretty impressive.
No doubt.
Historic, Johnny Mac. John, I just want to get your last take, by the way. You mentioned Saquon. We'll give away the Saquon jersey, John. But this week on Birds 365, we also got to give a Zach Vaughn away for the All-Pro performance. So we'll do that on Birds 365. Johnny Mac, Eagles, Commanders in Philly for the NFC title game. If I told you that in August, You would have laughed me off the screen, brother. How do you see it a week from today?
I would have. Yeah, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to say. I mean, like I said, a great story. I love Jayden Daniels. Anybody watches the show, I advocated he should be the #1 pick back in the draft, not Caleb Williams. I didn't think he'd be this good. He's so calm. He's so collected. You know, I'm watching over the past couple weeks of the playoffs. In the NFC playoffs, just talk about the NFC playoffs. So I'm watching Matthew Stafford. I'm watching Sam Darnold. I'm watching Jordan Love. I'm watching Jalen Hurts. I'm watching all these veteran quarterbacks. And the most calm and collected of them all, Jared Goff, the most calm and collected of them all is a rookie in Washington. Maybe he's not smart enough to not be cool and calm and collected. Maybe he doesn't realize it yet.
Right.
But it's amazing just how even keel he is. Deservedly going to be rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year, obviously. One of the great rookie seasons of all time. Adam Peters, I think that's going to be a story. If you go all the way back to the joke he made about Howie Roseman trying to get one over on him back in the draft trading. What a job he's done building that roster. And Dan Quinn, who has all of a sudden turned into more aggressive than Dan Campbell. And by the way, he'll come in here and he won't lay down. That's one thing. I mean, if Washington's going to come here to win. And if it's 4th and 3 at the 10, 15-yard line, you're not kicking a field goal.
No.
And you're going to have to stop.
John. You forgot somebody. You didn't say what a great job by Josh Harris.
Josh Harris, great job. Great job by Josh Harris. Tremendous NFL owner. Low bar from what he had to come from. Not the best NBA owner. But yeah, Josh Harris did. Look, Josh Harris saved that franchise. It's interesting. Man.
He did.
Like, he has crippled this franchise in this town that plays across the street from where I am right now, because, you know, they didn't have a Daniel Snyder. They had a great ownership, but they didn't have a Daniel Snyder. But when you're going from Daniel Snyder to Josh Harris, it's a different measuring stick. It's pretty good. And he's done a great job. Magic Johnson's involved. Washington's a great story. They just don't have the talent to beat the Philadelphia Eagles.
Not yet, John. Next year they got $100 million in cap space and 11 draft picks. I mean,
yeah, they might. They're going to be a problem for a long time.
Eagles got to capitalize on this window, man. They got to capitalize here, no doubt about it. All right, Johnny Mac, thank you for doing it, brother. We appreciate it. We will talk to you in the morning on Birds 365, brother. Great stuff today.
All right, thanks, guys. Another NFC Championship game. It's become a regular fare around here.
Pretty cool.
Nick Sirianni, baby, and Jalen Hurts, baby. I love it. John, thank you, brother.
All right, thanks, guys.
There's John McMullen joining us here on the JAKIB Postgame Show. Philadelphia Eagles are advancing to the NFC title game. Feels surreal to say, Big Sills, that we are going to host an NFC title game in Philly. I can see it oozing out of you right now that you're not too happy with this scenario.
No, this is wonderful. This is
I think you birthed. By the way, can I check our group? We got great people in here, all right? And I love you all. Don't get me wrong. I love each and every one of you. But I think you're all a little bit too silly-wise, okay? We got people in here crying about passing yards. We're playing in an NFC title game in a week. Yeah. I don't give a shit about passing yards. Are we serious?
So what are you going to break? Man. So you want to sit around waving pom-poms all day or not talk about the game?
I'm going to analyze where we are.
Wait a minute. Is it a post-game show or is it a pom-pom show?
No, it's a post-game show, and now we just won a football game over Stafford and McVay to go to the NFC title game.
Great. Next.
Okay, good.
There's the pom-poms. That's what happened in the game. Nobody's talking shit here, but they're just talking what happened in the ball game.
No,
That's all they're doing.
Passing yards,
They're
man.
just
I'm watching them. I'm listening to them. I'm reading into their comments.
They're just talking about what happened in a football game. Nobody's bitching. You're moving on. You've now advanced. What the hell are you talking about here?
Oh, you're not bitching.
No.
Cilio bitches about Cilio could be served a 5-star meal, and he would bitch about the size of his foot.
I am hired to give you my professional opinion on every fucking thing I see. And when I see it, hey, let me say, it's what it is. Congratulations. You have now moved on. You are 16-3, and you're 8 quarters away from proving Cilio wrong. 8 quarters away where you don't need your quarterback to do dick and win a Super Bowl. Unbelievable.
He'll be the first quarterback in the history of the NFL that's existed for 100+ years to not have to do a thing.
And get this, like John McMullen said, they'll go and do everything in the offseason, even if they win it, to change the offense completely around one more time. Those are John McMullen's words, not Big Sills' word. How you doing?
I don't give a crap whether they were John McMullen's words or they were the voice of God himself. We're going to the NFC. That's the fact. We're going